Paintball Nerd.
All right, our guest today on Paintball Nerds Fun 5 has been in the paintball industry for over 30 years. He's played with Farside since the beginning of his career in 98. He's worked for PMI. He's worked for Lucky Paintball. He worked for PB Nation. He started his own company, PB Retro, and he now works at JT. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, a bona fide paintball nerd, John Dresser.
If ever you were
How you doing, John?
a show, if ever there was a show for me, this is definitely the right title.
This is it. This is it, bud. This is your show. How you doing?
Very well. It was actually fun because I found out about your show like scrolling through and saw the title first, and then I saw you pop up. I was like, "Huh, that guy looks like Zyzik," and kept scrolling. And then didn't really think about it again. It wasn't until you'd done a couple more shows and I saw it again. I was like, that guy looks a lot like Zyzik, and kept scrolling. And it wasn't until like the third or fourth time that I think I followed it, and I was like, I'm 90% sure that's Zyzik.
It is. It is me.
So,
well, I'm glad you followed. I'm glad that I attracted a fellow nerd.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I said, I think half of the reason I didn't think it was you is I didn't know you and didn't really know how well you followed all of this. And people for the Ironmen typically don't call themselves nerds. And that's still what I thought of you as a former pro player for the Ironmen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I always there's always a special place in my heart for the Ironmen. That's where I spent my entire pro career. But I have no problem admitting that I'm a paintball nerd, dude. I love the sport, and I love to nerd out on it, and I love all the little cultural parts of it, all the little fashion parts of it, and I love that you have Valve 001 RT on your wall there. I love it.
Yeah, that's so I can't not claim I'm a nerd with this stuff just because I have a good memory for it, and I've been correcting people about it for forever. It's one of my favorite random memories was Maddie on the webcast said something wrong, said something about just a year being off or something small. And since at the time we had a PB Nation chat going on about the Go Sports webcast, and so I corrected whatever that was, and then somebody called Maddie and corrected him, and Maddie like on the air was arguing back. He's like, "No, I'm pretty sure I'm right," and the guy's like, "Well, Dresser just said," and Maddie's like, "Yeah, he wins."
Yeah,
and didn't stop.
That's awesome.
And I have young kids now, and so I try and tell them that it's better to be quiet than to be wrong. That I will rarely speak up unless I know I'm right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you've been in the industry for 30 years, so it's
okay. So I haven't quite.
You know a lot of stuff.
So I've been playing for over 30 years, and I want to say I started running a field in 94. So it's real close, but not quite 30. It's coming up on it. And then there was a small gap where I took a real job in the real world installing telemetry units on liquid nitrogen tanks and made actual people money, and then went right back to
paintball. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You know, when you're a nerd, you can go out there and do some other nerdy stuff, like real world nerdy stuff. But you know, you come back to paintball always.
It was fun because I didn't know you were back. Like, you disappeared for a while, and I didn't know you were back until I saw somebody fussing about Push and Hormesis headbands, and they're like, "This bastard Zyzik told me I'd have my headband by." Yep. And I was like, "Huh, there can't be that many people with that name." I was like, "He's got to come back, and he has to be working for Push now."
Yep, that's true.
And then it was great seeing you out playing some ICPLs with Cap this last year.
Oh man, isn't that a great time? I'm so happy that format exists.
So you can't quite see the other wall here, but I played when Tom Cole started the UWL, literally over 10 years ago now. There was, what caught me for the UWL was there was one picture of a guy wearing clear Scots and shooting a Predator autococker. And I was like, holy shit. Like, that's
get me there.
Amazing. and it was of course a Chris Diltz photo, and
Yeah.
it blew
Ooh.
my mind. And I think it was
Yeah.
I think it was Todd Martinez's Predator. I think it was all borrowed stuff, but I thought that's amazing. So I got to play this. Tom brought his traveling roadshow to the Chicago PSP, uh, and I went up to the PSP, and I think I had that RT with me, and with the sole goal of just joining one of the UWL teams. And when I got there, I found out there were literally only two pro teams. There was the Ironmen, who were basically just pulling current pro players to play with Bob
Yeah.
and with the guys, with Daryl Trent and Pax.
Hmm.
And then there was Aftershock. And Aftershock and Farside always had a contentious relationship. Uh, and so I was like, ah. But one of the Aftershock guys kind of came over to me and was like, okay, we got to get you on the field. I'm like, I'd love to play, but I don't think Rennick's going to stand for it. And he's like, okay, well, we just won't tell Rennick. I was like, how is this going to work? He's like, just
Yeah.
keep your mask on.
Exactly.
It'll be fine. He's like, I'm like, this sounds sketchy. He's like, and just can't wear any of that Farside stuff. I'm like, so later, before that the event started, Rennick actually came over to me and was like, so I heard you're going to play for us. I'm like, I'd like to if you got the space. He's like, yeah, we can get you in some games. And I was like, that was good enough.
There we go.
I was like, fantastic. Uh, but it was Bruno that got me. Like Bruno had been gone. Like nobody'd seen Bruno in years, and he
Yeah.
was there,
I remember that.
and he was going to play. And so he tells me, like after our first game, he tells me, he's like, man, I put on, like I thought it was stupid. I thought paintball's stupid. I'm over it. I'm not never coming back. And this is before he coached Aftershock again. He's like, then I got
Mm.
there and like the smells and sounds and all my friends at Badlands. It's like, all right, paintball's cool, but I'm not playing it. He's like,
Yeah.
then I put the elbow pads on, and like,
Oh
he's like,
yeah.
there's a certain feeling to it. And he's like, man, I kind of miss this. He's like, then I got
Hmm.
a gun and took a couple shots. He's like, holy sh-. He's like, all right, this is, I remember. Oh yeah,
Gotcha.
completely. Completely. He's like, then I saw you. He's like, and I saw red. He was like, I was gonna fuck you up. He was like, I was gonna get you. And I was so excited. And then I saw you were our first game, and I was even more excited. He's like, then you walk on the field and start walking. I realize you're on our team. And I was like, paintball's fucking stupid. Nobody cares anymore.
Oh man, that's what this sport's all about is like great stories, and some of them, you had to be there. So, so John, what's your most memorable moment in paintball?
Ah, um, man, most memorable moment might be have been winning the amateur at the first Huntington Beach. So there was
Mm,
pro, which Dynasty won, and there was amateur that we won. We had been Farside, but PMI, where I worked, had a new product line called Evil. So we made a team. We renamed
yes.
the team Evil Factory, and then we were going to play 10-man, and 10-man kind of dissolved that year. And so we played 7-man as a lark just to play it. So we'd never practiced it. We didn't really know anything about it. We had too many. We had all of our 10 guys there, uh, but and I had a great event up until the final two games. In the final two games, I got shot off the break, so I had to watch it. But winning that first Huntington Beach 10-man in the sand was pretty
Yeah,
cool. Uh,
that's a good one.
yeah.
I actually won that event too as novice with platinum.
Yes, I remember Platinum. We played you guys a couple times that year. So Neil
Yeah.
Eberly, didn't he play with you guys around then?
Yes, he did. He
Yep.
sure did. Yeah.
I remember a couple of the guys that floated around the Bushwhacker camp,
Yeah.
also playing with Platinum. Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
group.
Steven Pitts
Yep.
and Goat, if you remember Alex Hong Goat,
Yep. Of course.
and SC Alex Eklund.
I
I
know the
wonder whatever
name, but
happened to
I don't
him.
know him.
He worked for War Games. He
Okay.
was like a SC staple. We called him SC Alex. But I actually don't know what happened to him. But yeah, Huntington Beach, man, that was a special event. Playing in the sand. I remember I had a titanium boomstick, and
So it's
the
Spark.
sand got in there. And we shot the sparks come
Yeah.
out, right?
So
Oh
I didn't know that was
man,
a
I
thing
wish.
until I moved down to Florida for a little bit, like one winter.
Yeah,
Um, and I had a barrel that the guy who gave it to me said it was titanium, and I didn't believe him because it didn't look special at all. but
Yeah.
Orlando paintball is in the sand, and they play in the evenings when it's not as hot in Orlando. And I remember watching it spark, and I was like, "Huh, I guess it is a titanium barrel." Uh,
Yeah. It was so cool.
yeah,
I thought it was so special because I had this sparking barrel.
and then you won.
And then we won. Yeah, exactly. It could have been because of that. The other team was
Clearly,
so intimidated. They saw flames coming out of my barrel.
right? Yeah, it's so trying to think. Like it was neat because like to get to that finals, we played guys like Tyler Michaud, who had STP at the
Mhm.
time. In the
Yeah.
finals, we played like Dave Baines' cap, so it was Dave and
Yeah.
Marcus and
Yep.
all these guys.
Gator.
What's up? Uh,
Gator.
yep, Gator. All these guys that became superstars in their own right.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was definitely a standout event for us, and just
Yeah.
standout event
And
in
so
general.
many people were watching that had never seen paintball before. We had a that that was like really the first time that like we had people that weren't planning on watching paintball that weekend were watching paintball, and it was just like it just felt like this amazing spectacle. That's an awesome event to win for sure,
Yeah.
man.
My it was the only time my grandparents came out and saw me play. Uh,
There you go.
so they lived in Southern California, and so they came out, and I got them in the VIP, and exactly where they stood. And the one game they watched was a game we lost. It's the only game I've ever shot that I know. It's the only game that I personally saw shot all 7 guys and watched it break, and then we still lost. Um, That's NPP, old school Wild West NPPL. I got
Yeah.
pulled and got the second to last guy pulled for overshooting somebody that who
What?
wouldn't leave, and who, funny enough, was playing right in front of the VIP. So my grandparents came off splattered head to toe with ultra pink evil. Uh,
Jeez.
and then the very last guy on the team, who I shot 2 or 3 different times, who had these huge pink breaks in his dreads, like hung the flag and then made a magazine of like him like running the flag in, and then had close-ups of all these hits on him. And I
Oh
was
my
just
gosh.
so livid. Like I said, but makes like you said, it makes a good story. It's one of the few
Yeah.
times that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I shot all 7 guys, and yet we still lost.
That's insane. That's insane.
That's just how
So,
you were a victim of that refing, I'm sure, as well. We all know
oh
how.
yeah, it was part of the game, and like the I guess the mantra was always if you play good enough, uh, you can't get out refed. But that wasn't
It's,
always true.
yeah, it
It
was not
wasn't always
always
true.
true. Sometimes the refing was
Yeah.
downright malicious, but
Yeah.
most of the time it was just generally incompetent.
Yeah.
Uh,
Totally.
and but yes, I tell people that all the time. Is the goal is to not leave the game in the hands of the ref.
Yep. Yep. Well, John, over these past 30 years you've been playing, who would you say is your favorite player of all time?
Man, it is hard to come back from this World Cup and not
Yeah.
say Oliver. Uh,
Yeah.
just he's the best that ever did it. Uh, and it is absolutely like my favorite story in paintball right now is all these older guys that have come back and started playing again. Some with their kids, some who just left for a couple of years, some who left for a decade, some who can't come back because of ICPL or to play Woods. But there are all these different reasons people are coming back. Sometimes they can just afford it now. They couldn't afford it in college or whatever. In college,
Right.
I switched to playing pump because I could afford that, and that way I could still
Yeah.
play almost all the time. Uh, but I love these stories of people coming back, and I love that Oliver is now one of those guys that took 6 years off or whatever crazy number it was, practiced for
Yeah.
2 weekends, came back and won World Cup.
Oh man, he's so different too. When you talk to him, it's like he kind of has like this different accent too. It's really interesting, and he's like,
It's
you
oh,
could just
it's
tell that he's like grown spiritually. He's like
yeah,
just like this Zen guy now.
it's I love that he's done so well with Hormesis. I love that he's enjoying it so much. I love that he's connecting, but the fact that he was willing to honestly, let's think about it, risk his legacy a little bit by coming
Yeah, for
back.
sure,
Like he could have been
for sure.
could have played terribly. Could have SK could have never put him in for a point. Could have, but
Yeah.
it was only a couple points in, and Ryan said, "Put Oliver in so we can kill somebody." Uh,
Yeah.
so
And
it
he
was
put
fun.
on a show, didn't he, John? Like he was putting on a show at World Cup.
See, I didn't get to see that much. I just working the entire time, and the what time that little I get to see of games is from the pit side, and at World Cup they put the pits on the end. So I got to see very little, but I got to hear it a lot, and
He was
I
going up the
loved it.
center every game.
I
And
it just happened that they had a very dominant center, where somebody
yeah,
that doesn't have to be lightning fast went up there. I
yeah,
told uh, their coach or their team manager Eric and Ryan during the game that when every time Dynasty would shoot somebody, especially as the tournament progressed, the whole stands would erupt. And I was like, this is like
yeah,
2003 all over again. You know, Dynasty shot
yes,
somebody because the stands yelled.
yeah,
You know, a Dynasty guy left because they booed. You know, Dynasty got a penalty because they booed really loud. Like
yeah.
it was fun.
It was awesome. It was a
Uh,
great time.
if I had to do a runner up, it would probably be either Malachevsky, be Richie, or who played on Image, or Chris Lasoya, who was
Ooh,
one of the
good
very
ones.
first standouts, even
Yeah,
before Oliver.
yeah. And
Uh,
Chris is still doing crazy stuff in ICPL. Like, remember when
yep,
he surrendered that guy?
yep. So the previous year at ICPL, uh, I flew into New York and got stuck there, and wasn't going to be able to get there until like the midway through playing. So all the rental cars were gone. So me and a random guy rented a U-Haul and in the middle of New York and drove overnight. Got to ICC literally half an hour before everybody had to wake up. Went, walked the fields real fast, played, and as we're walking on for one of our woods ball games, the guy that runs the team told us, he's like, "Hey, these kids are new. Go easy on them." I was like,
Mhm.
"All right." So I went up the center, and then like they kind of laid off me. So I'm like, I'm gonna go through really early. Went through, and there's a guy like shooting at our guys at the bottom, and so I dove in the bunker with him, and I was like, "Dude, you're out." And he's still shooting his gun. He's like, "Let me get this guy. He thinks it's a ref or something." I was like, "No, no, no, for real. You need to stop shooting. You're out." And he just turns and realizes, and like you just watch his whole body deflate. Like I didn't shoot him. I didn't even point my gun at him. Uh,
Oh man.
and so he walks off, and so I go to surrender a second guy, and I'm maybe 5 or 6 feet away from him, and my own team starts shooting at me because I'm just walking around in their backfield at this point. And so I like hip shoot him real fast. My own team blows me off the field. I leave. Well, that guy continued playing, and now he plays pro. He played pro with I think the Latin Saints at this at World Cup.
Nice.
So he still plays. But we found out that wasn't the team that our guy thought it was. It wasn't a group of new kids at all. It was a group of guys that
Huh.
later went on to, some of them played for Level and other teams. Uh, so that guy, his friends still like they see me at events, we'll get pictures just that they can terrorize this poor kid with.
That's awesome.
Uh,
So
but
so
yeah,
John, you got a couple number one run guns up there.
uh, so
Right?
yeah, so when I moved to St. Louis, I basically didn't have any paintball stuff. The only thing I kept was like my tournament gun, that RT because I don't think I could sell it, uh, um, and even like and some of my personal older jerseys, and just got rid of the rest of it. Just kind of thought I don't really need all this stuff,
Yeah.
and instead, years later, um, I started collecting a couple more guns and a couple cool things that I thought and was glad that I didn't let go of that RT. And a friend of mine wanted to come out and play Living Legends. And so I was like,
Yes.
cool, what do you want? And he's like, I want to look like I stepped out of the 90s. And I was like, cool. So I gave him
Yes.
like one of my old jerseys. And at the time, I had an autococker from the owner of Rage that I was fixing up. And so he played with that Rage Evolution, had a good time. And it was Aaron who used to work for Paint Magazine. So
Mhm.
a couple months afterwards, he's like, "Hey, give me your address." All right. So I give him my address, and this box shows up, and it's full of jerseys, and it's Ed Porman's Avalanche
Oh,
jersey, Shane Pastana's Ironman jersey with
yes.
the shield, uh, Tom Cole's Bad Company jersey,
Dang.
LD's jersey from Image, Opie's jersey from Image,
Wow.
like
Dang.
Gary's jersey from Legacy. Like it was just this
What?
piece of history. And so I called him. I
Yeah.
was like, I can't accept this. And he's like, what do you mean? Are they not cool? And I was like, no, dude, you sent me over 1,000 at the time. And like those jerseys were going for 150 bucks each. It's like, you sent me over $1,000 worth of jerseys. He's like, I don't think you know what you have. And he's like, oh.
Yeah.
So I sold them for him, gave him the money. He went on vacation. He was happy, but those jerseys broke my brain. Like touching that piece of history got cost me untold thousands of dollars. As
I
I've
would
now,
have kept those things, dude.
I couldn't have. Like I said, I
Yeah.
know the guy too well, and know that he was just like, to him it was just something cluttering up his house. But
Right.
and at the
That's
time I
true.
didn't collect that stuff. At the
Yeah.
time I didn't really collect any jerseys that I didn't have my name on them.
Yeah.
But those broke my brain, and so I started collecting jerseys and guns and all. Like now, I have way too much old stuff, and I've teased my wife many times. It's like if I never come home one day, don't sell off the random stuff in the basement. Like get a hold of some of these people so they can get real money out of them. They're not
Yeah.
worth
Get
what
what
any
they're worth.
sane person thinks.
Right.
Uh,
Do you have
but
a favorite item?
uh, I got a couple that are probably in the running. I would
Okay.
That's like choosing a kid. So for jersey, I have one of Oliver's rookie jerseys.
Ooh.
So one of his first
Iron Man
year,
jersey?
yes, of course, first year Ironman
Dang.
jersey uh, from when he first joined. For guns, I have one of an accidental gun. Um, a friend of mine was giving me grief online, telling uh, people spend this big money on Evolution autocockers. They spend $1,000, but like a handmade Danny Love Bad Boys Toys gun like sits unsold. And he was right at the time. I was like, man, and there was one online, and so I found that gun and found the guy. I was like, hey, you've got this right feed old school Bad Boys Toys gun. If you ever want to, are you sure it's from Bad Boys Toys? And he's like, yes. I was like, all right. If you ever want to sell it, uh, I can't pay what your asking price is, but I can pay this, and I'll do like throw this in to make it to sweeten the deal. And he's like, sold. I was like, cool. Well, bring it to Badlands. We were supposed to play a UWL at Badlands in a couple months. So he brings this gun, and actually, funny enough, I grabbed it. So it's black. So of course I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm not sure you can see this at all. Uh,
Yeah.
but it kind of
Nice.
looked like an evolution, which is I think the reason why it sat unsold. So I bring this gun, or take possession of this gun at Badlands. I walk 100 feet, and Danny Love's like, "Let me see that." I was like, "Well, that's pretty cool. I didn't know Danny was there." So walk over, show Danny, and I'm like, "I'm told it's one of yours." He's like, "Oh yeah, it's mine." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm told you made it." He's like, "No, no, it's my gun. I owned this gun. This was my tournament gun." And then he like tells me like six things with it. He just sits there and goes through it. He's like, "Yeah, that's it's like the back of the bolt's knurled. I couldn't really do knurling back then, so that's what I did. Is I just chopped off the end of a rock regulator and affixed that to the back of the bolt." He's like, "See that little dot at the top of the twist lock? I put that dot because I never knew which way was up and which way was down if it was locked. Uh, See that with the at the three-way?" He's like, "I literally had to do that with a file because I didn't have the tools yet to do it." Uh,
Wow.
so by
That's
accident,
special.
yeah, by accident, I bought one of the greatest gun techs ever. I bought one of his early tournament guns from when he played on
Whew.
After. Yeah,
That's special for sure. I love
that's
that.
yeah, that's a good one. Um,
Yeah, that'd be at the top for sure. Anything that Danny's built is just awesome, but like to have something that's like kind of like a Frankenstein Danny
yeah,
gun, like from his early tinkering, that's
yep.
special for sure.
Uh, so I got to have a because of that, I have a couple other aftershock guns that I've gone out and found. I have Kenny Clamper's Silver Surfer, his silver autococker that he played
Ooh.
with for years.
Yeah.
I have one of Heavy D's vert feeds. I have one of Todd Martinez's Cash Money guns. Uh,
Nice.
so I've got a couple aftershock guns just because they were local in Midwest.
Yeah.
Um,
You had a good collection there.
I got a couple. Like I said, I've been in the right place, right time, and then unfortunately, because I've talked up some of the guns that I like, I've priced myself right out of them. That
Yeah.
that other people are willing to spend way more than me, and that's okay. That's I'm
Yeah.
not sure I need more, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm selling the ones I have.
Right. So John, man, for those that want to get in the industry, man, I think being able to play in paintball and and work and have a career in paintball is the demand is greater than the supply, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. It's just like pro sports. The people that want to
Yeah.
play pro basketball way more than the 100x spots in the NBA.
Yeah.
But there are lots of ways to still do it if you want to work within the industry, and you're showing one of them right now. Create content. You don't need a lot. Uh, some of it's even free, um, but creating cool content is a fantastic way.
Yeah.
Another way is starting your own smaller niche store or starting your own or making a product that paintball needs. So
Yeah.
there's there's all sorts of companies that started by view loaders started by a guy that wanted to make an agitating loader because loaders weren't shooting fast enough. Um,
Yeah.
there are all these small niche companies that grew and grew and grew, but Youngblood started off making barrels.
Yep.
With PMI started by redistributing stuff. So there are lots of ways to get into it, but Billy Saransky, who is the CEO of Core, started working in the warehouse.
Yeah.
He ran Badlands in Chicago, but during the winter it was cold and there's no paintball to be run outdoors in Chicago. He went up to PMI and was started in the warehouse. Didn't take them long to figure out he was smart. He was smart enough to be in sales. Didn't take them very long before he was the sales manager. Did that
Mhm.
as they transitioned several times. Then he started intentionally taking different positions within the company so he could learn about them. And now he's the like literally started at the bottom and worked his way up. So
So what do you
just
think it takes? Like, what do you think
well,
it takes to make it in paintball?
when you start, probably the ability to you should bring something specific to the table that they don't have. So
Mm.
you could be in IT in paintball. You could be in web design in paintball. You could be in
Yeah.
the guy behind the camera. You could do all these different jobs that are in paintball but are a regular job. Uh,
Yeah.
Having that paintball knowledge and having extraordinary like that ability to see into the future and that ability to see what's coming next and what's popular, like there are all these things that can help you have longevity or do the next big thing. uh, when you start you just kind of have to have the ability to roll with it. When I was hired at PMI, basically it started off that I was living down in Tennessee and Farside wanted me to stay with the team more often. They were afraid that I'd quit or I'd leave, and they knew that if I was closer, there was a better chance. Uh, so they wanted me to come up and work at Challenge Park, and Challenge Park was building a place called that became CPX. So they were building the biggest paintball field or the most lavish paintball field that had ever been made, but it wasn't open yet, and I wasn't sold on working at a paintball field or moving to Chicago to work at a paintball field, no matter how cool it was. Um,
Mhm.
so the owner of CPX told me, "It's like, hey, PMI wants to meet you." I was like, "All right, what's the job?" And he's like, "They'll tell you." So I went up to PMI and interviewed, And I was like, what's the job? What are you guys thinking? And their basic answer was, look, all the time we have a job opening, we're desperate, we have to hire somebody, they're a moron, and we're stuck with them. And he's like, and we're sick of hiring out of desperation. We want to hire somebody who seems like they're smart and seems like they can do something for us and add something to the company.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, so there's no job. And they're like, well, no, we want to hire you and we'll see where you fit. And I
Yeah.
was like, and being young and dumb, I took them up on it. Uh,
And look
so
where it's brought you.
yeah, the good and the bad. Um,
Yeah.
but so I think a little bit of that is being willing to take some risk, being willing to take an opportunity when it presents itself, because that's what it was. It was an opportunity. Might not have been a particularly good opportunity, but it was. Yeah, I've gotten to work with what I enjoy now for decades.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. Certainly
and then
a lot to be thankful for.
oh, for sure, it's I tease my kids that here in my family we're not allowed to say things couldn't be worse. Like because things could always be worse. Things could be
Sure,
infinitely
sure.
worse. Um,
Yeah.
that so I'm a firm believer that you don't say that you don't believe that, you don't think that way.
What are you most thankful for that paintball's brought you?
Oh, that's easy. Uh, I met my wife through somebody else that played paintball. That I would not have met her, um, wouldn't have known her. She lived in a completely different city. She lived here in St. Louis, and when I lived down in Tennessee, uh, that a friend of mine met her and came back talking about this girl that he'd met, and I was like, man, she sounds awesome. I hope I meet a girl like that someday. And then knew her for years and years. Like had just but saw her occasionally just through friends or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but because of paintball friends and because of paintball, was around her just literally the last time I probably would have seen her because just the way those friend groups were changing. Got trapped in a car on the way somewhere with her and got to know her a little bit. I was like, oh, she's completely different than I thought. And she's really cool. And
She's a
then,
paintball nerd.
well, yeah, well, no, not at all. She had no interest in that. Doesn't care at all. But because of that, like paid attention, like kept track over phone, and then saw her as I was going through to Chicago, and then we I want to say then that next year we started dating and have been together ever since.
That's awesome, dude. Paintball love story.
It was like the one of the pictures that I see the famous book behind you. One of the
Yeah.
pictures that Dilts dug up as he was making the book that he sent me was a picture of my wife and I when we were first started dating, and it's a picture of me sitting in the stands and her like a couple rows back laying down trying to sleep in the stands down in Memphis.
Oh man.
Um, because so the famous guys, the paint guys, um, Haas actually played on Farside, and Dilts actually played on Farside too. And they moved to Chicago not too long after I did, and so they were people that I saw pretty regularly, and I'm big fans of. And then the photo portion of that book, I'd been trying to get Dilts to develop for years. That those photos were sitting in his freezer,
Wow.
undeveloped. So he
Wow.
didn't know what he had, and he didn't even know if they were still good. And so at the time with PB Nation, I was like, "This is a natural fit, man. At any point, let me know, and I'll pay to get them developed. And if you want to be paid for them, we'll crowd fund the money. We'll do something." And he was no, 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 no. Didn't really care that much. And then
Mhm.
when Famous came out, I was like, uh, that or when the idea came out, I was like, let me help through PB Nation. Let's blow this up. And then we even got it on the. I want to say that we got it on the front page of Kickstarter and all sorts of things just because of the response to it.
Yeah. Awesome. John, man, you're truly a paintball nerd. It's been a pleasure having you on. Is there
Absolutely.
anything that you would like to part with for the paintball community?
Oh, uh, that I don't know. I think the thing that I'm trying to be better at is just be appreciative, just enjoy it. That for years I played somewhat seriously, uh, and I thought of it in the way that Drew Templeton used to say: it's a grind that you have to try, that you're working hard at it, and all that. Uh, and I never like that never quite resonated with me. Like I was always
Hmm.
more there just because it was fun, because I was good at it, because I enjoyed it. But to enjoy those moments, that paintball's not really a grind, paintball's not really anything but something that you should enjoy and you should remember and you should be appreciative of. That it's
Yeah.
easy to yell at somebody or let your emotions get out of control or be mad at your team or do all that. But take a breath, man. Take a breath,
Yeah.
enjoy it. My favorite quote from the TV show The Office was Andy Bernard saying, "I wish somebody would tell us that they're the good old days while they're still happening." That
Dude.
you don't know when the good old
Perfect.
days will end. You might be experiencing them right now. Uh, Take a breath, enjoy it. That paintball has so much, many different things to offer. For years, the only time I played was airball. Like if I played, it was airball. If I played, it was competitive. We were trying to win almost always with my team or with my friends. Very rarely just playing, goofing off. Uh, and I moved here to St. Louis, and they had a vibrant pump community. They had all these new fields that I'd never played. So it's fun to just because of PB Nation, I got started playing some scenario games. Because of Vicious and Aftershock and these other teams, I got to play these UWLs. Uh, because of a jersey, I brought back Farside. I wanted to make, I wanted Todd Martinez at Weapons to make me a throwback Farside jersey, and I literally was putting the order in, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of an asshole. I should ask the other old Farside guys if they want a jersey. Most of them don't play anymore, but this way at least Todd makes money, as opposed to him
Yeah.
basically losing money by making a one-off jersey. And so I
Right.
asked the guys, and like 20 old school guys were like, yeah, I'd love a Farside jersey. And as soon as those dumbasses got them in hand, none of them had played in years. They're like, we need to play an event. And I was like, no, that is not
Yes.
why I got these. Uh,
Oh man.
but I was like, you guys don't own guns. You guys, this is going to be a disaster. But they all wanted to play. We came back and we played. Our first 10-man was the one that Lane held down in Atlanta, and we accidentally won it with guys that, like I said, didn't play football. Uh, and so, like, this is so easy. This is so much fun. We should do this more. And so, these little things can lead to something else. So, enjoy it. Enjoy the different things paintball has to offer. Find new things that paintball has to offer. When I was playing competitively, I didn't understand the guys that played scenarios. They were like the drama kids in school. They playing dress up. I didn't understand the guys that played with Titmans, and it was a different kind of dress up that was in the camouflage. I didn't understand the guys that wanted to tech guns, that it was more important to tech. I didn't understand Bob Long coaching. Like that wasn't like I thought of Bob as a player, and so him completely stepping out just to coach. Like there were all these things that I didn't understand, and now I enjoy all of them, or I enjoy that other people are enjoying them. That
Yeah.
these guys that create cool content, going out there and getting shot on the field. Uh, I'm appreciative of all these ways that people can enjoy paintball.
There it is.
There it is.
Enjoy paintball.
Try.
Thanks, John.
Absolute pleasure meeting you. Absolute pleasure. That it's fantastic that you're doing this and having fun at it. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. Thanks,
Take care.
man. Have a good one.
Take care.